Hi, Moose. Thanks, Moose. Yeah, we were just troubleshooting something with it. A little penguin would talk, but you couldn't hear anything. Moose. So I'm a little sleepy today. So I thought we'd just go back to Minas, Tirith. And so here we are. Let's get a good look at it. There it is. Yeah, I am. Yes, I am sleepy every day. Let's go pet the sheep. Oh, see. Oh, so cute. They're like, why is this big hand coming out of the sky? Oh, it is. Look at it. Look at it. Just everybody, look at that. Look at these cute little eggs. Oh, that's so cute. I love that. Excuse me. So today, it's just nice and cozy. We, in our world, we've got, Girl Scout cookie booths and sales happening. That's what I spent a lot of time doing yesterday. So today's just nice and calm. But yeah, so I was going to keep working on putting windows in on this side. I did the interior of this inner courtyard here, made it totally cozy. And now we're gonna continue on this side. I think I hit some doors and I figured out, now I can't really remember how, but I figured out you can do corner windows. Aren't those just adorable? Look at this little blanket. So yeah. Okay, I'm trapped again. Hold on. I get trapped often, so. But yeah, so we're just gonna kind of continue on with, let's see, our window vendor has visited the construction site and has delivered all the windows, and it's time to install them. Thanks, Moose. It's, I really like light and translucency, so it's like windows, windows, windows everywhere. So there's a lot of windows and a lot of little nests. So cute. This was the last one that I was really kind of working on last time. I did the back. And I think the story for this guy is that it's been done in phases, like through generations. Like this guy was built first, and this is the entrance to it. And over time sorry, don't puke. Over time, it was kind of like, well, let's add this too. But all of the stucco, like the plaster cladding, has worn off. And the roof is a little, like the slate tiles are a little sun worn. But this new addition, they, definitely rebuilt it new. So the roof isn't as faded and the plaster is still in pretty good shape. Although this did happen years and years ago. But that's kind of the narrative with these two. Similar, but just kind of moving through time at different speeds or different places. So let's add some doors here. And I'm thinking it's kind of the same here. Either that or very typical. The contractor started with the building and they kind of ran out of money. The owner ran out of money before he got here. So no plaster for this guy. So I don't know. It's always fun to kind of come up with a weird little story for these things. Owners are always running out of money before they finish a build. Or they're like, oh, this is too expensive, even though we're having you do all of this stuff. We didn't listen to you. We weren't listening. So let's see. I want this to be... Oh, that's kind of cool. We'll have it be a big door. Big door. Can I make it even bigger? I can make it a double door. Yep, and I think that's the limit there. That silly monkey scratching his tummy. Let's see. So we'll put a little light right here. Yeah. Want it right. It wants it like within a gnat's ass of the door. Oy. Okay. And then start with our windows. We did square it off. So we'll continue that. Gotta... Actually, this guy needs to go up a little bit. Kinda this. Like the extents of like the hole that's cut out of a building for doors and windows. Like, yes, you've got this little structural piece here. This is called the header. And this is the sill. But the actual part of the exterior wall that you like cut out to make all these parts and pieces, including the window fit, it's called the rough opening. And you always, like a general rule of thumb, is as you're looking at a building, well, okay, not a rule of thumb, but just kind of best design practice is that you want the rough opening for like doors and windows to be the same. So we're gonna make... And even though it's got like a little header piece here, the rough opening where that punch happens, it's gonna be the same. You do have a rough opening. I'm gonna make these... Moose, you bring so much to the table here. And let's see. So those two windows, they have some laundry happening there. I think we're gonna... Ooh, yes. I like having these weird little nooks and cranny, like dormer things. Okay, so if the windows are here, we can assume this is like the floor height, ceiling floor height. So we want to push these up a little. I love these little windows. They just make little opportunities for light. And when the orcs come, you're mostly protected when you're shooting arrows out of them. Hi, Pip. Welcome in. Let's see. So we've got that guy rolling. And again, you would assume that this string course right here is showing like a floor height. So we'll move this guy kind of to match. For the love of God, everybody. That thing is so disgusting. uh, Damn it, you three. Damn you guys. Damn you. Right to heck. That's disgusting. Ew. Blah. So, like, my lunch wasn't anything like squishy. Like, I didn't. The girls are having mac and cheese. I thought about it, but I didn't do it. I'm glad because you guys are gonna make me gag here. You already did, but oh, how adorable is it? Like, that thing should really be like outlawed. It's disgusting. Look at this. We're gonna try to match that window height. Because why not? We can put a window down here. Yeah. Okay, so now let's see. We'll do this other side here in a little bit. We'll get a path rolling. Gotta let these orcs get to the front door when they're attacking. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Let's see. Did I put flowers here already? Let's put more. These people have a little front garden. Whoa! Heck yeah. Bushy. It's bushy. Right. I like that. Let's see. This game for some reason always makes me tell like grandpa stories. What was the last one? Oh yeah. Okay, so here's something fun. We mentioned this. I think Moose in your last chat you were talking about thrift stores. Oh my gosh. My grandpa was a thrifter and he would go to auctions a lot. He never ever wanted anything new. Like he would get mad almost if you got him something new. So, and his justification for anything was always like, oh, a guy could do a lot with a horse or something. Like there was one time he wanted to get my brother a horse. I don't know why. We don't live anywhere where we could have horses. Respectfully said no. But for a while he was on a little horse thing where he was just trying to get us horses and my parents had to keep saying no. And you know, they weren't just like they were in dire need of care. And he was always trying to help people out that, you know, needed some extra cash or something. So he'd like go out and find somebody with like a cash need that had like an old depressed horse or something and be like, I'll take that off your hands. Let me try to give this to my grandkids. Um, it didn't, the horses didn't happen. We did get other things though, but like back on the thrifting thing, yeah, there was nothing this man would not get at the thrift shop or auction. And like that was one thing. He would go to the local, it was probably Goodwill, and pick out his shirts and he'd wear them. And this is, of course, like after my grandmother died, because she would be mortified. Like her ashes are spinning in the wind still, probably, about all the things that he did after she died. She died when she was 59, so pretty early in their, you know, they didn't get to really grow old together. And I don't know if maybe that was for the best for her. Because I mean, he was just going to get weirder and weirder, and she was just going to get more pissed off, I think. So, but so yeah, after he died, he would, it wasn't that he didn't know how to do laundry, because I know, like, because she had cancer, and they kept going, oh, you only have 6 months, you only have 6 months, blah, 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 blah. But she lasted for like 3 more years. And during that time, she was trying to like train him up. Like, this is what you're going to have to do when you live by yourself. This is how you feed yourself. This is how you make sure you're clean and, all that stuff. And he didn't take any of that advice. He would buy his shirts from Goodwill, and when they were in need of, cleaning, he would donate them again. And Goodwill would launder the shirts and put them out. Hi, Shock. Just telling a grandpa story. But so yeah, like he would donate his shirts and Goodwill would launder them and put them back out like for sale. And he would go in, he knew exactly like the time frame it would take for his shirts to go through the whole process. And he'd come back in and he'd rebuy his shirts. They'd be like $0.25 a piece. And so I mean, he wouldn't like claim a quarter on his taxes, but it was a tax write-off if he wanted to. But that's how he got, like, I think all of his laundry done. Knowing him, he did it with pants and undergarments, and yep, that was what he did. He would give us gifts of like, he'd have this coin jar, and when he thought that his coin jar was full, he would give those coins to my brother and I. Thing is, he didn't just like give them in a bag or anything like that. He'd put them in one of his dirty gym socks. And he'd fill. They were on his feet, Moose. I know what you're going to ask. He would fill dirty chips full of coins. And that would be like a birthday present. Or just like, hey. And I mean, they'd have like, oh God, that's disgusting. But yeah. Ugh. Yeah. Um no, they weren't crunchy. They were just, and some of them would have holes in them, and he'd like tie off the holes and pour in the coins, and just, it was like, someday it was like, could you please just use like a paper bag for this? So, um, so yeah, that was a common occurrence. We were grateful for the coins because, like, he'd pack them in there too. Like, there'd be like $80 worth of coins. Yeah, yikes. Yikes is right. And so that was awesome, especially when we were like in college. That that was nice. You know, you'd be like, "Ooh, I can't wait to get a dirty old sock of coins." Because we need, like, my brother and I needed like laundry money, or there was a time where I liked to play Texas Hold'em, and I would use my dirty sock money for that. So, yep. I didn't have a gambling problem. I just, you know, gambled a few times. I just played cards with people that seemed very serious about cards for a little bit. It was at our local dive bar. This is when I went to CU, the University of Colorado, and I lived in Boulder. And sometimes they would close the bar and we would play poker. And that's when I'd use my dirty sock money. Is for that. Little did they know that if they won anything off me, they were getting coins that had resided in a dirty sock. So. But yeah, Grandpa was a trip. I've mentioned before, he, again, hated getting anything new, even if it was like, it was not a cock's my God. It was just a dirty gym sock. Oh, yeah, he hated getting anything new, and even got his dentures secondhand from Nogales. We don't know who or how he got secondhand dentures. We're hoping that the person that got rid of the dentures, it was a willing transaction, and that it happened while they were still living. Who knows? Honestly, with that man, anything could have been the case. But because they were secondhand, they weren't made for his mouth, so they didn't fit. So he, like, sometimes you gotta rob somebody of their dentures. Exactly. I mean, they're expensive, probably. One of our kids has expanders. It's just like this kind of crazy retainer. She has two of them. And, I mean, they're expensive. So I could see the appeal of robbing dentures, but also not, because that's gross. So yeah, he can put a little, gonna continue this guy. So, but yeah, like we, he'd also just kind of disappear for like a few months, and you'd be like, oh, I hope, honestly, it was always just like, I hope he's still alive and with us. I hope nothing crazy happened. But it was after one of those times that he just like would disappear for a few months and we didn't hear from him. And, we finally, like, somebody drove like the 3-4 hours to go visit him and be like, okay, are you here? Is everything fine? What are you doing? And it was fresh off his denture run, but because the dentures didn't fit, they hurt his mouth. And so he had lost a ton of weight because he just, dentures did not make him feel good. And he couldn't eat like food without his teeth very well. So, like, shock, seriously, like, we have no idea. Blah. Like, sometimes thinking about some of the things do kind of make me a little gaggy. I'm like, ooh, what if we did this? Yeah, sometimes I get a little gaggy, but it's okay. Yeah. Ah, I've gone out of my... Dang it. Okay, there we are. Here we are. Gonna broaden these stairs. Yeah, like he was the type to like, keep a handkerchief in his pocket and just not wash that thing. Long time. So gross. Oh my god. So, yeah. Let's make this. Oh, that's super cute. So this type of balcony, very, very thin. I've mentioned this before. This type of balcony is called a Juliet balcony. When the door opens and you're just on this little balcony that sits just proud of the exterior wall. Super cute. I forget myself with these stairs. I want to make a landing. I think. That's just moving the whole dang thing, which we don't need. Maybe I just need to restart the stairs. Let's bust some yeah. Okay. Those are gone. We'll restart. But yeah. He appeared again and we're like, where have you been? And he's like, oh, I got new teeth. We're like, well, that's disgusting. Or, well, first we were like, oh, that's great. And then he told us what and how and all that. And then we are like, well, that's disgusting. But, live your life, live your dreams. And he did. Oh, that's cute. Yeah, let's, oops, escape button. Let's do that. Look at that. Oh, how cute. Yes, we needed this in our life. Let's put a door in here. But yeah, he was stubborn, so I mean, we weren't gonna like get him to change his mind about using those dentures. So I mean, he was gonna use them. He received them fair and square. I am hesitant to say that he paid for them fair and square, but yeah. Oh no. Let's continue with this type of window. I make that rough opening. Cute. Let's see, what's another thing that he did? I mean, the stories about him are like crazy. One of the times that he disappeared for a long time, and it was like one of those we didn't know. Are you alive? Are you dead? What's going on? He meant to go to Belize. And I don't know if he I mean, it was the early 90s when this happened, so I don't know if he got on the wrong plane or how that would have worked. But he got lost and he ended up in the wrong country. He ended up in Honduras and not Belize. Which, I mean, they are right next to each other, so it was like, oh, good try. Good try. You almost made it. But, so he just, stayed in Honduras for months, and he ended up on this, little island off the northern coast, called Roatan. And he acquired property. I can tell you right now that that acquisition was not legal. Because, 10 years later, we had to go in and we had to make it legal. So when he did it, it was not legal. But he got this property and lived on an island for a while. And, all the locals were just like, dude, we need to help you. You're gonna kill yourself. His name was Mo. My grandpa's name, well, that was his nickname. And everybody on the island called him Uncle Mo. And they were just tried to be super helpful because they're like, this gringo's gonna die if he doesn't have our help. So, which, interesting fact about the people of Roatan, they are the people that reside there now, I mean, it's kind of a touristy spot now. When my grandpa started doing his stuff there, it was kind of like Hawaii in the 20s and 30s and 40s, just beautiful and, unscathed by American dreams, I guess. But the people that resided there were descendants from local Hondurans that had just kind of made their way to the island and just kind of they weren't necessarily isolated, but it is definitely in a hurricane area. So I could see them just kind of living their lives separate from like the mainland. And then after the Civil War, in America, a bunch of Southerners that were, they're like, we still want to be a-holes. Like, you know, we lost and we just can't deal with everybody having rights. So they found the island of Roatan, and I'm not too sure about like the things they got up to there. I just know that there are a bunch of like people from the South that were interested in still acquiring and having slaves, like the terrible people they were. Um, they ended up on the island. My hope is that they weren't still continuing those practices. But I will say that their descendants live there now. And Rotan's a unique place where they take American money and like for exchange, and most everybody, you know, everybody's pretty much speaks English because they're like, ah, people are so dumb. You don't know Spanish. So, ah, sorry. Sorry. Oh my God. Oh, that. Oof. Don't puke. Don't puke. Damn it. That always happens. Oh, and now my mouse. Where's my mouse? Okay, there we go. Oh, I think my mouse just crapped out on me. Hold on, chat. Oh, there it is. No? Where did my mouse go, chat? Well, I'll keep telling the story. So anyway, so he was... Oh, hi, Cookie. No, I mean, it just zoomed in and out. I just don't know where it is now.
Did you press a button?
I did press a button. I don't know what button I pressed. Oh, Cookie, good. Yes, it's time for sleep. Here, let me... Huh. My cursor has totally disappeared. Cookie, you've come at an amazing time. Oh, well, so it... Wait, there. Okay, there it is. Weird. Yeah, you brought all the problems, Cookie. So yeah, Cozy, Cookie. Cozy Cookie. I'm, like, I don't know, telling grandpa stories. And cozying up, putting all these windows in. So yeah, like, the people of Honduras, they all just super nice, totally accommodating, just, they're so kind. And, but they all have kind of like a lot of the people that are the descendants of these two groups, the natives and the southerners, They have red curly hair and like I don't know, their skin tone is like a beautiful shade of like, you know, it comes like, you know, bronze, but then they have freckles. So it's like, and it's only at this island where like the people that, you know, come from this island and have this ancestry where they're like, yeah, we red hair, freckles, curly, and then I mean it's just like I don't know. I'm white as toast. Not even toast. I'm like white bread. Super white bread. Like my you can see my vein. Like I'm almost translucent. So I have a Swedish and Bavarian and Scottish ancestry. So I just have there's nothing in me that's like let's give this person opaqueness. Everything like you can see all the veins. Just I'm almost blue. So it was kind of a strange topic, but there you go. So anyway, yes, he lived on this island. He oh my god. Gross. Yeah. Yeah, no, like okay, and Cookie, like in my talks with Jelly, I like my family comes from like Malmo and Lund and Borgby. So apparently she's threatened to revoke my Swedish. So because I come from like this I think the word she used was Skane. Skane? So I'm barely Swedish apparently. Oh god, not you too. Come on. Yeah. Yeah. Like she honestly, she's like, I'm gonna like your Swedish is pending. So I was like, no. But oh my god. Ew. Ew. I, I didn't mean to have my family be from that part of the country. Oh man, thanks, Hen. Hi. Welcome in. Ooh, I know. I know some of those people. Thank you guys. They are yeah, thanks, Hen. Um so yeah, my grandpa, known as Uncle Mo, on this island of Roatan in Honduras, um acquired his land illegally. We didn't ask questions. All we know is that we had to make it legal, like about a decade later. And so he just started developing this land that he had. He wanted to make it just like some nice little, like, peaceful cabanas um, that he could visit anytime when he needed to get away from us, I guess. Because, you know, we asked questions about, like, are you alive? How are you doing? And he just wanted to be free. And so He just wanted to be free of us on his stolen land. So he... Oh, hen. So, yeah, don't... You gross. But, to Gray, you gross. But hen, you, below the chat, like, chat bar where it says send a message, click on a penguin and it says like the first top 3 power-ups are gigantify an emote. So, oh, yep. Yes, sir. Gray's in charge. But yeah, so my grandpa was just developing this little slice of land on an island for himself. And so he did what well, okay, not what anybody else would do because it was him. But he just like got a machete and started clearing the land himself. And locals would be like, Uncle Mo, you know, there are ways to do this in a proper manner. Do you need help? And he'd be like, oh, no, no, no. I'm fine. And so he'd hack at things with his machete. And I mean, it took him months. And one of the things, like part of the delay though, was he started hacking at this thing the locals called the dog nut tree because the fruit of this tree looked like, you know, dog nads. And I've never gotten a close look at dog nuts before, but apparently that's what they looked like. So now the thing is about this particular type of tree, you had to be very careful with the fruit of the tree. You had to be very gentle with the dog nuts. Like the fruit of it, like if one opened the juices that came from the dog nut fruit was really toxic. And he did not heed these warnings. Like, he'd be hacking at this thing with a machete. Some of the fruit would get split. And, you know, he'd get the juice on his hands. He did get the juice on his hands, you know, just didn't wash his hands. And, got it in, like, you know, he was working hard and wiped sweat from his brow is what we were thinking when he related his trials and tribulations to us. And well, thanks guys. Woot woot. Oh, bye hen. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. It's very generous of you. So, anyway, he wiped his brow and like I said, the liquid of this tree, the juice from the dog nut fruit was toxic and he blinded himself. It made him blind. Temporarily, you know. just temporarily blinded himself. But it lasted for months that he was unable to see. And you know, the sweet locals were just like, oh man, you know, we need to take care of Uncle Mo because, you know, he blinded himself after doing something we told him not to do. And so they were, you know, they took care of my grandpa. And they didn't have to. They really didn't have to. He could have just somehow found himself back in the States, back at home, and we would have done it for him. But like I said, at the time, we didn't know where he was. So, you know, goofy guy. But yeah, it did go away after a few months. And he was able to see again. So yeah, very temporary. But we're happy that it was temporary. I mean, the guy just lived his life, doing whatever the heck he wanted. And sometimes no news was good news, but the times where we hadn't heard from him for months and months, we were like, okay, where is he? Is he still alive? But yeah. Let's put a little hatch here. Access hatch. Let's see. Is there something that we can do? Now see, that doesn't have a doorway, so maybe this needs to be a door instead. Okay, I think I have to delete this first. Let's see. What's another thing? Oh. So it's like supposedly ski season around here, although we haven't gotten enough snow for a proper ski season. But he liked to ski, and we were a skiing family. And, oh, no, I don't want that. Oh, undo. I have an undo button, guys. Yay. Yeah, he'd ski, and we would... I remember there was one time, like, the man just, he'd show up, and we didn't know where he'd get his equipment or anything like that. But, he's just there ready to party. And I remember there was one time we were going down the slope, and he just kept veering off to the right. Like, he'd be going down the middle and just veer off, and he'd veered so much that he would end up in the trees almost. And then he'd kind of reset himself, and it just kept happening. And we got to the bottom, and we're like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm avoiding those trees, the ones that are right in front of us. And I'm like, there aren't any trees in front of us. It's a slope, like it's wide open. There's nothing going on there. And he's like, no, there's like trees right there. Can't you see these trees? And we figured out that particular day, I mean, the man had crazy eyebrows. Like, they looked like they were like two caterpillars wanting to mate. Like, it was crazy. They were so fuzzy. And some of his eyebrow hair had gotten stuck with, when he'd put his goggles on, and they got stuck, like oriented, like right in front of his eye. So his eyebrow hair was hanging in front of his eye, and he was thinking it was trees the whole time. And he was just trying to avoid those trees. So, yep. I think this would make a nice little storage unit. But this person comes out and they can access from this hatch or over here. See, oh my gosh, that's so cool. See, that's how you make the corner window, but that's how you can make a corner bay window. I like that corner though. Move it up a little bit. And is there enough? Yep, there's enough room for a door over there. So we'll put a door over there. Move that up to match. Okay, see, it wants to put in that Juliet balcony. Do want it to be a door. Here. We'll put in some stairs. What's another fun thing he used to do? I've told this story, but he lit a nice portion of the state of Nebraska on fire. He was a long-haul trucker, and there was one time, it wasn't ever like unusual for his boss, to be exasperated with him. Not unusual at all. And if this is going to be storage, we're going to make these stairs really wide so nobody eats it on the way up. Oops. But yeah, his boss kind of just tolerated him and his antics and would just kind of like shake his head and be like, ah, oh. And, well, if that's where the window is, I need to move these down. So he was once like, you know, his boss cleaned up his truck for him. He worked for this group out of Denver. And his boss had just, like, I think at this point, my grandpa was like using the company trucks and he didn't buy his own or anything. And he had just gotten like everything redone on his truck, freshly painted, the works. And he went out on a run. And, you know, usually in Colorado, if you're trying to get to the eastern portion of the country, you go through a state called Nebraska. And Nebraska is very flat. It's like plains and prairie type. So you can see for miles and miles and miles. And so he was driving through Nebraska on the way home from some big haul that he made across the country. And he got through this, like the outskirts of a little town, and there, lo and behold, there, there was a couch on the side of the road that somebody was trying to get rid of. And my grandpa, never wanting to buy anything new and always secondhand, was like, why would anybody throw away this perfectly good couch? So he like pulled his rig over, which if you've ever done any type of driving a big rig, it takes a while to like, you know, he saw this thing on the side of the road and was like, ooh, I want that. And then just like pulled over, took him forever. So when he went back to like inspect this house, couch, like he had to walk a bit. And so he decided, you know, I want this couch. My wife is gonna love it. I'll give you a hint. She wouldn't have loved it at all. But the operable word there is wouldn't. Wouldn't have, because you'll see why the couch never made it back. They, and so, you know, he walked back. It was like, oh, I love this couch. My wife's gonna love this couch. So he used to be in the Navy, and he was big into bodybuilding and all that stuff. And he was a very kind of like, I wouldn't say muscle bound, but he was a very strong guy, very fit. He used to do like bodybuilding competitions like when I was younger. So, oh God, he had to have been in his like 50s or 60s when he was doing this stuff. So he was a very fit guy for a very long time. And he like hoisted this couch like onto his back. Like I don't know kind of the physics behind this. Like the couch was huge, and he just was like, oh hey, no big deal. I'll just carry this couch back. So he did. He lugged that thing back to his truck. But the back of his truck was full. So he was like, well, I'm taking this couch home. He was, you know, like a man on a mission. Well, that's kind of cool. So he was going to take this couch home no matter what. So he put it on top of his cab, because that's kind of the only place it would fit. Now, here's some foreshadowing. He put it next to smokestacks, the smokestacks. But yeah, you know, otherwise, great. You know, he's got this new couch. He tied it all up so it's nice and secure on his truck. And off he goes, driving on I-80 through Nebraska. And it's getting to dusk. Sun's getting real low. And he's driving through this small town. And everybody starts waving at him. And he's like, golly, this is a friendly town. Like, wow. Everybody just keeps waving to me. And, you know, I should come back through this town sometime. Although they might have been very nice people, they weren't waving to be nice. they were waving to let him know that the couch, since it had been in such close proximity to the smokestacks, the couch had caught on fire and was flaming on top of his truck. So everybody was trying to flag him down, and he just thought everybody was being really nice. Which I guess that is nice when you're trying to flag somebody, warn somebody that something's on fire. I mean, they were being nice. Oops. So let's put a big garden down here. That seems about right. That's beautiful. Oops. Look at this garden, guys. A little, oops, down. Nope, wrong key. Down. A little intersection of peace and quiet right here. Very nice. Anyway, so he's driving through Nebraska. The couch is on fire on top of his truck. And he isn't realizing this. So he gets to the outskirts of this town and then he can finally kind of see the glow coming, like when he looks in his mirrors, because he was in town and street lights and what, he couldn't see really that his couch was on fire. So he finally sees the glow of it as he's exiting town and realizes what is actually happening. And he's like, oh crap. So he pulls his truck over, which again is kind of a feat. It takes some time. Okay, cool. Oh, I just want this grass to disappear without creating a door. But you know what? Maybe we just let this door happen. I like that door. We're just gonna let it be. So yeah, he pulls over. It takes a long time for him to pull over, and he takes his pocket knife and he, slashes the ropes that are tying this thing to the truck, and it dumps over into a field. And so promptly, the field catches on fire. He's like, oh no. And he looks back and, he'd been driving with this flaming couch and he had created little spot fires everywhere. So now here's where I think he could have definitely made a better choice. He was seeing fire trucks on their way and stuff like that. And he's like, I think they've got this handled. So he just, don't want laundry to be there. He just takes off. And he's like, well, Godspeed, everybody. He just took off. And definitely not the best decision, but I'm not surprised. And so he took off, drove back to Denver. His poor truck was in such a state of disarray. And honestly, it was the same thing that like would always happen with him. His boss was just like, well, all the paint's ruined, like, cause, you know, fresh paint job when he went out, total destruction when he came back in. Boss didn't ask questions. He was just like, well, we're gonna have to, like, refinish your entire truck again. And, you know, he had to pay for it, which is, my grandpa had to pay for it, which, you know, I think that's only fair. But, yep. Sometimes stuff like that would happen. Unintentional fire setting. Now let's see. I want these to be the same height. So they're one. So this guy's butting up right at the top. Oh, I love the sound that these tiles make. Oh, there we go. We want you to be 2 windows. We want a double window. Let's see if I can get that to... No, doesn't want to do it. Yeah, yeah. Bedtime stories. I mean, I've got a lot more. Definitely. What's one that's more positive? Oh, well, I mean, we didn't end up with this car. I remember one time when my brother turned 16, like I said, my grandpa was always trying to help other people out that needed kind of a boost. And he, you know, I like this. I know there's a big gap right here. I like that. So he bought a hearse off of somebody that needed the cash and offered my brother the hearse to be his first vehicle. So my brother and his my brother's very kind but was absolutely not going to drive a hearse. You know, it was up to my brother and I. If we wanted a vehicle, we needed to buy it, but he was not going to buy a hearse. So, and if you guys are, I mean, I don't know if they're called something different or if everybody is very familiar with what a hearse is. It's a funeral car. So, it's where you would put the coffin in the back and, yep. Don't know. My brother did not want to drive that. Roll up to high school in a hearse. So, he didn't. He was polite. He said no. Oh, let's do this. I love that sound. Well, let's see. I imagine this fireplace happening. No, not that. I imagine this fireplace happening in a more logical spot. You wouldn't want the smokestack in front of the windows. That's just respiratory issues waiting to happen. I imagine that these buildings are connected and that there's a big honkin' fireplace right here. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. I feel like there should be a doorway right here. Just some sort of like, yeah, you can access this from here. Welcome, orcs. Move it so that it's not going to be directly, like... I imagine that this is storage or something. And then this is the main part of this building where people have more access. And there's probably like an access hatch on this floor. But since this is like kind of where people reside, this is the fireplace. And down below, the living space is like 2 stories worth of storage. That makes sense to me. Make these some fancier windows. Let's see, what's another fun one? I went to visit him once. At the time he was living in Arizona. I was 21. So I don't know. I was on spring break in college. And yes, I did go to Vegas. But before that, I was a good granddaughter and I went to visit my grandpa. And this house, he had straight up traded somebody for this house that he was living in at the time. Yeah, this is definitely gonna go into that wall a little bit. That's fine. Yeah, so he had straight up traded somebody for this house. They're like, we don't want to live here. And he was like, well, I don't want to live in my house either. And then they were like, let's just trade. So they did actually, we were all kind of shocked. He did make it legal. It's just that there was no money exchanged. It was just a house exchange. So like when they signed like the deeds and everything, like you can do a transfer of like that costs absolutely nothing. And that's what they ended up doing. I'd never seen that before until he did it, but that's what he did. So yeah, he had traded for this house and it was close to a golf course. He lived in this part of Phoenix called Sun City, which was a retirement community. And it had a golf course associated with it. And oh, hi KV. Ooh. Hydrate. KV also. Ooh, I'm so glad you came in. you were my 100th follow. So there you go. Thank you for being my 100th follow. Yeah, well, thank you for following and hanging out. So, yeah, I'm just telling stories about my weird old grandpa. Doing some detailing here. Windows. Windows is the name. Ooh. Okay, so that's actually pretty cool. That was an accident, but that's pretty badass. Well, thank you. Thank you. I lost my train of thought here. That's okay. But oh yeah, so he had like straight up traded for this house. And that was the house that I went to go visit him in. And it was near, oops, it was near a golf club, and all the retirees, because it was a 55 plus community, they all had golf carts. Oh, thanks, KV. Awesome. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. You've got a Yoshi emote. Oh gosh, I love that. And it's for Tinker. Oh, my wife. Tinker's my wife, everybody. So yeah, this community, 55 plus, near a golf course. So he had his own golf cart and everything. Again, don't know how he acquired it, but he did. So, you know, there it is. And it was so hot during, I mean, it was spring break for me, so it was March, but it was just blistering already in Phoenix. So you could only really golf like early in the morning or late in the evening, because it was just too unbearable to be out there during the day. So my grandpa, again, I wouldn't call him cheap, but he liked to live as cost effectively as possible. I think that's kind of the theme of a lot of these stories. He never wanted to pay the fees for this golf club that we would golf at. So he would get on the course. I would say it would. Hi, Emily. Yes, frugal is a good word. I would almost put it a step beyond frugal. But so we would get on the course before it would open or after it would close. And we never started on the, we never started on the tee box that was closest to the clubhouse because he never wanted to get caught. So we tried to stay out of view of the tee boxes or the clubhouse as much as possible. And he would, you know, we'd start on like hole 4 and then do 3 holes and then Like, because the 1st and 9th, the 10th, and the 18th holes are usually in view of the clubhouse. Like, we would do like the middle portions of each course. So it could be like holes 3 through 8. And then we would do the middle chunk of, like 14 through 17. And that's how we would get our 9 holes in. Oh, you never heard someone say stories about their weird grandpa in such a calming tone. Well, I think it's just like all this stuff was just as calm as it might not be for a lot of people. This was just kind of, you know, to make a golf joke, like par for the course for him. So we got used to having to kind of, I guess, just deal with things that were normally extraordinary circumstances, were kind of run of the mill in our family. So I'm going to do this because this just seems wildly appropriate right here. Yeah, I mean, what else were we going to do? This is how he wanted to live. So it's not like we could be like, you need to stop that. You're causing us heartburn, but you need to stop that. Like, we couldn't do that. But yeah, so we'd avoid the golf the golf, the clubhouse, and also though they would have golf marshals on the that would roam the course, and make sure that everything was okay with the course functionality, like in a functional way, but also part of their jobs. I mean, their names are golf marshals. Was to look for people like us and that were not, paying for things. And oh, and I remember there was one time where we did get, like, my grandpa was like, what would you call that? Like offender number 1 or something. Like, I'm surprised they didn't have a picture of him, like in the post office where they'd be like, this is our number 1 target, like for criminals and stuff like that. I'm sure they didn't. I was surprised if they didn't have a picture of him in their clubhouse, listing him as offender number 1. But yeah, we did almost get caught by the marshal. Well, we did. I mean, we did get caught, and he looked at me, I remember, and he like pulled his glasses down. He was like, "We got to get out of here." Like, he looked at me over the rim of his glasses, and he was like, "We got to get out of here quick." And I mean, they knew who he was. They were like, "Mo," and his golf cart, since it was not new and secondhand, it didn't go very fast. So like, this golf marshal pretty much was like got out of his cart and was like pacing us right next to the cart. He was like, "Mo, like, come on, man. Like, you're caught. I see you. I'm walking right next to you. Stop trying to get away." And yeah, we got caught that time. But there were so many other times that we did not get caught. So- and I mean, you know, this didn't happen just this trip that I went to go see him. Like, this was like a pretty common occurrence with him. So, yeah. Good times. Yeah. No, like, you know, it's kind of like, I mean, our kids love hearing Grandpa Mo's stories. He definitely, like, I agree with Gray. He was a heck of a person. Just interesting and did whatever the heck he wanted. And, didn't like to live life by most everybody's rules, which was fabulous to witness. Yeah, so our girls love Grandpa Mo stories. And it's kind of like, I mean, these stories have to go somewhere, so might as well. What does that do? Ooh, that's kind of cool. Now, what kind of story can we make up for this building? What is this building? It's kind of like, oops, kind of bigger, kind of like a little, like almost like a watchtower type. And it seems like it would have been here forever. So, that's kind of cool. Where are the murder holes? Oh, have we talked about murder holes? What are murder holes? Oh, like where people would, like, if we're starting to shoot orcs? These could be murder holes right here to defend the town from orcs. Sure. But yeah, Emily, it's like, yeah, like just knowing your family. I don't know. Depends on the family. It's a blessing or a curse. But, um, yeah, I was definitely, I know a lot of people in my family were more or less exasperated by my grandfather, but, I, man, I thought he was a lot of fun. So, definitely kept everybody on their toes. I think we'll make this little garden. Oh! Well, okay, so Coretto, you're kind of not like you make a valid point because this is like, you know, this is Minas Tirith. Minas Tirith. So, yeah, like I figure once we get to, I mean, that's kind of aside from the aesthetic appeal of these windows, making their own little dormers right here. That is also kind of the point, is like when people are shooting arrows out at orcs, trying to breach the gate, like that's a good trajectory right there. I mean, they're spot on with their aim. So, um, you know, these places are going to get completely blasted and breached. But yeah, these older buildings, and you know, like, so in my little narrative, yes, these are the older buildings. So that's probably why, like, maybe they've seen a lot of conflict over the years. So that's why a lot of them do have these little protective place for the archers to be. Let's see. You're very sad for a poor memory. Now, is the memory like your own or just because you don't have any of the information? So let's see. I had Pop, who's my mom's uncle. Grandma, very, very funny. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Like, well, and you know, Emily, like, so my grandmother, the one who is like, oh, in charge of like containing this man, she died when I was 6. And I mean, I do have fond memories of her. Mostly, I remember that she was exhausted. And I mean, honestly, that could have been the cancer, but it also could have been my grandpa. So, you know, who knows? So, he, he, oof. I mean, it could have very well been him that made her so tired. But yeah, I know they come out with like all these books and stuff that like tell me about yourself, mother. Oh, well, you know, KB, he died a long time ago. So we don't we're all like in a state of like, oh, you know, maybe he's somebody else's like spider monkey right now. Like he's long gone. Oh my gosh, spreading his ashes is a story. Grandpa's ghost then? Yeah, maybe he does haunt us. I don't know. He doesn't seem he never seemed like he'd have the patience to haunt anybody. So oh, Emily. Well, you know, like I was about to say, like those stories, like I know that there are just like books and stuff like that that come out and they're like blank journals and they're like tell me about yourself or you know like keepsake books and like I don't like how like schmoopy some of that stuff can get, but at the same time it's like it's nice to kind of have written record about all this stuff. Excuse me, like if you just like like my grandmother on the other side, she was religious about writing down on the back of pictures where people were, what they were doing, what age they were, down to the day, on the back of all these pictures, like your full name, like it was, you know, we'd be like, oh my God, this is a little bit much. But then at the same time, oh, look at this little guy. Hi. Oh my God, that was really cute. Um, but yeah, like at the same time, it's like now when you go through pictures, it's like, oh, this is, I am so glad that she did this because now we know the when, the where, the, you know, maybe not the why, but it's good. And I mean, because she's not around to tell us any of that stuff anymore. So Yeah, no, that's good. And you can keep asking her the same questions. Just be like, burn this into my memory. So I'm glad your sister has a strong memory. So, okay, so KV, you mentioned Grandpa's ghost. Holy cow. Okay, so like I said, he was a truck driver and um he I think he spent like 5 decades like in a truck. Like and I think that's part of why he loved to just be free and kind of in the wind was because he was a long haul truck driver for so long, but at the same time, he also probably that job probably really like checked a lot of boxes for him. So, um, he he tried a lot of um ways to make money um that maybe weren't like, I don't know, the best idea. He was always trying to make his next million. And I think the truck driving that was kind of like his anchor job, and everything else he kind of viewed as like a side gig maybe. I mean, he did use his trucks to try to make these side gigs work. I remember one time, oh good lord, he bought like a huge amount of porcelain dolls. Like, I don't know how he thought he'd offload. Oh my god, that's so cute. Um, no, come here, come back. It's just gonna float somewhere. We don't know where. But yeah, he bought a bunch of really, and might I say, like creepy. Oh, that's so cute. Creepy porcelain dolls. And he just thought he was gonna make a ton of money selling a bunch of porcelain dolls out of the back of this semi. Um, just to cut through a long story, he didn't. And I ended up with a lot of them because he didn't know what else to do with them. And he was like, oh, well, you're a girl. You should like this. I hated dolls. That wasn't my thing. I was more into like sports or um I wasn't like a stereotypical girly girl, and his porcelain dolls were not my thing. Um I remember I got one Barbie from my mother, and she told me, she's like, I learned my lesson that day because I would play like GI Joes with my brother, and this Barbie in particular got um she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but she and GI Joe, they're battling, and she got caught by a Cobra Commander, and she was not cooperating. And so she, like, during the questioning time, and so she got her head shaved. And after that, my mom swore up and down she'd never get me another doll again. Or another Barbie type, but really another doll. And I don't know. It's like my brother and I were like, what? She wasn't cooperating. You get your head shaved. And that was a no-go for my mom. So. But anyway, so my grandpa had like a truckload of porcelain dolls. Didn't sell most of them. I I think I could tell that you were a Barbie girl. Emily, I don't think that's a stretch, to be honest. But yeah, I ended up with most of these like creepy porcelain dolls. Wasn't really my thing. But I ended up with them. Oh, but anyway, so yes, he was a trucker. That was his thing. And so when he died, because I was telling this story apparently, when he died, we were a cremating family. Anything else just seemed a little too, kind of not our thing. So we always had ashes that we had to deal with. And we took part of his ashes down to Roatan. Unfortunately, I wasn't part of this trip, so I only got to hear the aftermath. But because at the time, what was going on? Oh, well, at the time we had a newborn, so that wasn't gonna happen. Oh, hello, sheep. But yeah, so we definitely took part of his ashes. They went down to Roatan to spread his ashes on the dock that we have down that's associated with his building down there, his cabana stuff. And we were, I guess, or my family was on the top floor. It was a 2-story dock. They were on the top of it and, say some nice words, about to dump the baggie out because, he was in a Ziploc baggie. And right when they dumped his ashes, a snorkeler from some other property came swimming underneath, came out from under the dock, I guess, and kind of, okay, so physics, right? His ashes are in a clump being dumped out of a baggie, and kind of the trajectory, like we couldn't have anticipated this at all. But anyway, long story short, the ashes landed in the snorkel, and the person, this woman, just apparently stood up and was like like coughing and kind of gagging, what just happened? What was that? And my dad looked at her and was like, have you ever met my father? And it traumatized my uncle so much that my uncle just took off running down the dock. He was like, I want no part of this. Our entire family's gonna get sued because this woman just ingested ashes. And so my dad just kind of explained to the woman what had just happened to her. And I mean, she was pretty grossed out, rightly so. But so that happened to the first part of his ashes. I don't know how many actually made it into the ocean. A lot of it definitely ended up in the digestive insides of this woman, and we do feel sorry for her. Then the other half, we took him onto I-70, which is highway running east-west in Colorado, and tried to stay true to his trucker roots. We went to one of the way stations that he would always go to. And, you know, my mom and uncle, no, I'm sorry, my dad and my aunt were part of this journey. And it was just the two of them, and they were, you know, it was the last of Grandpa's ashes, and they were like, oh, you know, we've got this one. We want to have like a time to ourselves and all this stuff. And they just took him to a way station and tried just like dumping him out, like in the median. Because I mean, that is like honestly just what he would have wanted, honestly. But they didn't get them all out and of the baggie, and then they just like drove down the road and let the baggie air out, and so his ashes are in a pile on a median at a way station off I-70 outside of Idaho Springs, if you're ever interested, and also floating in the wind off that same highway. Oh, and also in some woman's body. So, yeah. I mean, he wasn't good with ashes either. He lost my grandma for a while. So, we're not good with all that stuff in our family. I'm gonna lower this guy. We're very bad with people's remains in our family. So, I'm sorry. None of you asked for this. Anyway. Grace sitting over here like, I can't believe you're telling me this. Anyway. What? Yeah, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. What are you gonna do when you're bad with them? Probably try to learn lessons to be better with them, but that never happened. Yeah, like I said, he lost my grandma for a while. I'll just launch back into it. Here's some more trauma. He had a hard time letting go of her, so he just kept her. At first he put her in a safe. And his house got robbed. And surprise to those people who took the safe, I have to say he did move her out of the safe before the safe was burgled from his home. But I'm sure he put something else very lovely in there. That wouldn't have typically gone in a safe. So good luck to those people. I'm sure they were quite surprised when they got that sucker open. But yeah, Grandma wasn't in it. He took her out, but he didn't know that at the time. Um, he thought that she had been taken with the safe, and because he forgot where he put her. And so he told us over Thanksgiving dinner once. It was like, oh my God, it was like 3rd and 10. The Broncos were playing. And we're all just like, oh, like about the Broncos. And he was like, they took your mother. And he said this to my aunt and my dad. And then another time, my aunt, my great aunt was there too. The sister of well, I mean, it was a very inopportune time to like drop a buttload of information like that. My grandma's sister was visiting us at the time, and yeah, they were in Coretto. Like, this was the heyday of Elway being our quarterback. So you know that it was like some crazy play happening right there. Some crazy drive. But yeah, he's like, oh, they took your mother. And so her sister, who was visiting us, my great aunt, my dad, and my aunt proceeded to like freak out a little bit. Yeah, seriously, probably. Like, not really, because Elway never did like Hail Marys, really, but you knew that there was some crazy last-ditch effort thing happening there. And yeah, that's when he was like, they took your mother. And it was like, oh my God. So he, the thing, Gray's just cracking. He's dying right now. Control yourself, Gray. Talking about my grandmother here. So, I don't know. I don't know if you hear him. He is dying. No, it was Thanksgiving, Coretto, so it was a Thursday game. So you know they're probably playing the Cowboys or something. So it was an important game because we all hate the Cowboys. Because Jerry Jones is a troll. Yeah, exactly. Wow. You know about the smell of cow manure before it snows in Colorado? Because of Greeley, those northeasterly winds, I guess? Thanks, Moose. So anyway, we thought my grandma's ashes had been stolen. Thanks for the Goon Bros message. And it turns out that she wasn't stolen. I'm not stopping this story. You guys are gonna learn about my grandmother's ashes. She wasn't stolen because my grandpa forgot that he took her out of the safe, and he put her in a blue suitcase and put her under the front seat of his truck because he wanted her close to him. That's very sweet, right? Well, the thing was, Moose, although they weren't stolen, he just forgot where he put her. And the suitcase was tucked away under his front seat, so he forgot all about where he put her. But for a time, he definitely thought that she was stolen, that she was burgled. Shh. You're having jorks. But, and it was after he had done like the straight up one-to-one trade of houses with that guy in Sun City, when he traded houses with the person and he finally like got things cleaned out. He was, years later, he was like, "Oh, she's not stolen. We know where she is." Or he said, he didn't say he knew where she was. He just said that she wasn't stolen. Because, well, he did know where she was because he traded, because he was a trader, he traded trucks with my aunt and my uncle. My aunt being the daughter, like, so of my grandmother. So he was trading trucks with them. He traded houses, why not vehicles? So he did like a straight up, like one-to-one trade. And they were cleaning out the truck of his items, and my aunt came across the blue suitcase underneath the front seat of the truck. And she was like, "Dad, what is this?" And he was like, "Oh, that's your mother. We found her." And, my aunt kind of freaked out because she was like not mentally or emotionally prepared to be like, handling her mother who was tucked away in a blue suitcase. But, so yeah, like he was like, "Oh, that's where she is. We found your mother." So yeah, there's that. Now with my grandma, her poor ashes were on a journey because, like I said, we thought she was stolen for a while, and then she ended up just being in a blue suitcase in a truck for a long time. And so, like 13 years after she died, everybody was like, "Okay, this is ridiculous. We need to do something with her." Like, it was always her wish to be, like, she loved this view outside of their kitchen window, because they lived in the mountains, and she always wanted, because we knew that she was, she had cancer, so we all knew what was happening, and she was like, "I want my ashes to be spread on the mountain across the way." And so finally, when we located her, we were like, "F this, enough is enough. We just need to go to this place," because my grandpa definitely didn't live there anymore. "But we need to go here and we need to spread her ashes like good people that were tasked with something. And we just haven't been following through with our tasks." Hi, Sharpie. Welcome in. Oh my God. And then, Moose, if it were anybody else, that'd be very disrespectful. But it's me, so that's actually pretty funny. So we knew where her ashes were. We got the suitcase that she was in, and we were like, "Let's go. Let's do this." So we all took her to this place. Yeah, I know. It's fine, Moose. We're fine. we took her to this place that was her favorite view. In the 13 years that she was on her adventure, they'd built a house in that view. But we were determined. So we went up to these people. They were all outside. They were having a barbecue. And we rolled up and we're like, hey, we have this blue suitcase full of my grandmother's ashes. Can we spread her in your yard while you guys just do your thing? And they were like, okay, go ahead. They're very accommodating. And so, we did. None of us wanted to like reach into the baggie and we took her out of the suitcase. We put her, put her in a baggie, a Ziploc baggie instead, because that's like what we do. And, but nobody wanted to reach in, and we were all like, ew, we're not touching that. So, these kind people that let us spread the ashes while they were outside grilling also gave us a teaspoon to reach into the little baggie to fish her out of there. And so we used a teaspoon and started doing our thing, spreading her about. And it was a little windy, I have to say. I witnessed this. I didn't say anything because at the time I was 19 and I was like, I don't know. I feel like this is something you're self-conscious about when you're a 19-year-old. Oh no, shock. This was my grandmother's ashes. But honestly, I'm not surprised if somebody alive would have been trapped in a suitcase. But anyway, you're self-conscious when you're 19. You don't, I was kind of shy back then anyway. Some of her ashes floated, to the grill. They more than likely landed on the burgers. And I didn't say anything about it because I don't know. I didn't want there to be any more of a scene than we were already creating. So I just let it be. So yes, both my grandmother and my grandfather were ingested. So that's probably a milestone that not a lot of people get. I don't think we've had any... No, it was the view that my grandmother used to see outside of their old kitchen window. And a house had been built in that view during the 13 years that her ashes had their adventures. So, yeah, it wasn't their house. These were people we didn't know. Yeah. So, yeah, after she died, my grandpa couldn't live in that house anymore that had the view. And so his journey as some kind of vagrant or vagabond or just an even more eccentric man started because my grandmother wasn't there to rein him in. So he bought You know, and like I said, he lived in a very frugal, cost-effective way. So he bought this like old cabin in the same town, but this cabin was built in like the 30s or 40s and it had no running water. Like it still had an outhouse. And I don't know what he did for like regular potable water. Or I can't remember what he did because I was like 7 to 10 while he lived here. Um, he had to go to the local rec center to like take showers and stuff like that. But, you know, he was all too familiar with an outhouse because he, like I've mentioned before, well, like I've mentioned before in my telling of his stories while building in Tiny Glade, he lived in a soddy in Nebraska. Like he grew up in a soddy, which is basically a hole in the ground. Because they were very poor, very poor. Um, oh, one moment. I will be right back. I'm going to just let all of this sink in for everybody. And I'm going to take just a quick little break. 1 second. Just let this sink in for all of you. 1 second.